I'm called Takoda. It means friend to all. But the truth is, I've never been anyone's friend. I was born in dry lands between the mountains, where silence is worth more than words. Since I was a boy, I learned that a shadow warrior doesn't cry, doesn't hesitate, only waits for the right moment to act. But today, something inside me changed. I was trained to protect my people, to fight against men who wear blue coats and carry fire in their eyes. But that morning, when the sun barely touched the horizon, I didn't fight soldiers, I fought fate, because she, Sarah, the white woman with tears clouding her eyes, stood before me, her dress torn, her veil stained with dirt, and her heart shattered. They said the groom ran away, left her at the altar too ashamed of his own cowardice. And me, I was supposed to ignore it, return to the shadows I came from, but something in her eyes held me. My name is Takoda, and this is the story of the day I disobeyed my ancestors to follow the sound of my own heart. The wind blew dry, dragging red dust along the abandoned trail. The sound of hooves faded into the distance, and the wagon dust marked their retreat. I stood still, like a living stone, watching that woman kneeling before the makeshift altar. Her white dress, or what was left of it, scraped against the dirt, and her trembling fingers struggled to untangle some invisible knot in her torn veil. "Why?" I heard her voice for the first time. She wasn't speaking to me, she was speaking to the emptiness. I stepped closer silently, but she sensed me. Her green eyes turned toward me, startled like a trapped deer. I stepped back, saying nothing. It was wrong. I didn't belong in that moment. Who are you?" Her voice broke the silence like glass. "I am Takoda," I said, my voice dry. "An Apache warrior." She hesitated, looked at me as if waiting for an attack. But there were no weapons in my hands, only the weight of my past. "Did you come to hurt me?" "No, not today." She collapsed. The weight of her tears finally fell. Her hands covered her face and her sobs filled the empty air around us. I felt the wind die. I walked closer until the smell of dust and sadness reached me. "Why do white women cry when their men run away?" I asked, not understanding. It was the most honest question I had. She lowered her hands, surprised. "He abandoned me at the altar. Said he couldn't love me anymore. He ran. Her voice broke. I sat down, slowly, just a few steps away. The silence between us weighed more than any words. "Your groom was weak. He was my whole world. A world that breaks so easily isn't worth carrying," I said. Not as comfort, but as truth. She looked at me as if my words were stones, and yet she didn't move away. "Why are you here?" she asked after long minutes. "I saw the smoke and heard your cries." She laughed, but the sound was more of a sob. "So, you came as a savior?" I shook my head. "Saving requires faith. I have none left." The wind returned, carrying the smell of rain coming with the night. Sarah stood up, unsteady, holding her dress like a frightened child. "What will you do to me?" I looked at her, serious. "Nothing. You can go back to your town." She looked at the empty road behind her, and she understood the lie. There was no town, only desert. "Then let me walk, or kill me now." Those words hung between us, like a tightrope. We both knew neither choice would save her. I let out a heavy sigh. "Walk with me, just until the sun disappears, then you decide." Her eyes dropped, maybe from fear, maybe from surrender, but she took a step, just one, and that's how we started walking, two strangers bound by the absence of a future. The sound of our footsteps in the dust was the only conversation for hours. And I, Takoda, the warrior who was meant to live in the shadows, chose that day to follow a woman who knew only pain. When night fell, and the cold of the stones began to surround us, I heard the sound. The night felt heavy, and the air smelled like danger. Sarah stopped walking. Without thinking, I grabbed her arm, but she pulled back, gasping. "Takoda, what is that?" she asked, her voice shaking. "Drums," I answered, staring at the horizon where nothing yet could be seen. "Hunting drums." She looked around, lost. The sound was dull, like a heartbeat buried deep inside the earth. "Are they hunting us? They're hunting anyone." Her eyes widened, and her fingers gripped my arm. I felt her fear. I felt it because it was mine too. But warriors don't confess fear, ever. "Do we need to run?" she whispered. "Running would just mean dying more tired." She shook her head, desperate. "Then what do we do?" I looked at the dark stones around us, old as the earth itself. I pointed. "We disappear." She hesitated, but followed me. Her clumsy steps made too much noise. I felt it, every stone shifting, every breath. In silence, I pulled her behind a broken rock. I knelt. She copied me, but she was shaking so much her teeth were knocking together. "Breathe," I whispered, "and close your eyes." She obeyed. The tears still came. I wrapped my arm around her, protecting her as best I could. "Can they find us?" she asked. "They can, but maybe they won't want to." "Why not?" "Because sometimes fear is the best armor." The drums grew louder. Now there were footsteps, branches breaking, dogs. I recognized the barking. Sarah pressed her face against my chest. I didn't push her away. "Who are they, Takoda?" "Men who hunted my people, and now hunt anything that moves." She cried louder without meaning to. I gently covered her mouth with my hand. "Silence," I said softly, eyes locked on the darkness. "Please." Time froze. Shadows passed. Lanterns flickered behind the rocks. A dog barked closer. I smelled smoke, gunpowder. "There!" a voice shouted. Sarah's whole body flinched. But it wasn't for us. A gunshot echoed. Screams. More shots. I understood. They had found another prey. Sarah realized it when my body relaxed. Her tears turned into sobs of relief. "Why are you protecting me?" she asked, her voice small. I took time to answer. "Because you cry like the women of my tribe. But I'm not like them. I know." We stayed there until silence returned, until the smell of death faded. When she finally looked at me, her face was different. It wasn't fear anymore. It was something more broken, more human. "If they come back, will you kill me first, Takoda?" "No," I answered, firm. "Why not?" "Because you already died today." She didn't understand, but she stayed quiet. That night, under the stones and the cold skies, the white woman cried in my arms. And I, Takoda, the Apache warrior, understood that saving someone can be harder than killing, and worse. I no longer knew how to stop. Morning came without warning, heavy with silence. The sky was gray, and the night's cold still clung to our skin. Sarah slept leaning against me, like a child exhausted by her own pain. Her hair was dirty, her lips cracked, but she was breathing. And in that desert, that was a victory. I opened my eyes slowly. I knew what I had done the night before was a betrayal, not just to the spirits of my people, but to myself. An Apache warrior doesn't protect a white woman, doesn't hold her hand, doesn't feel her pain. But I felt it. We heard the first sound as the sun appeared, iron clashing against iron. Riders. They were close, very close. "Sarah," I murmured, touching her shoulder. "Wake up." She opened her eyes slowly, still dreaming of fear. "Are they back?" Her voice was a thread. "No. But others have come." She stood up, even without strength. "Who are they? Maybe friends, maybe more enemies. How will we know?" I looked to the horizon. A group was approaching, swords at their sides, rifles slung over their shoulders, and among them, a tall white man wearing a blue coat. But what caught my attention was the necklace around his neck, coyote teeth. "I know that man," I said, my voice dry. "Who is he?" "Someone who taught me how to hate." She said nothing more, stayed silent, waiting for my command. I stood slowly, feeling the weight of what was coming. Takoda, what do we do? I looked at her. Her eyes begged for a way out, but I had none. We walk until they see us, I answered. Is that safe? No. Sarah hesitated, but she followed me. When they saw us, the group slowed. Their weapons weren't raised. Not yet. Stop! The man in the blue coat shouted. His voice was deep, familiar. Who are you? I stepped forward 2 paces. Sarah stood behind me. Takoda, I said. Nothing more. Silence. The man dismounted. He looked at me like he was seeing a ghost. His eyes were worse than weapons. I buried you, Apache, he said, angry. 3 winters ago. Not deep enough. He laughed, but it wasn't real. Who's the woman? Sarah trembled. I felt it. She's just dust I dragged off the ground, I replied. Then let her go. I won't ask again. Sarah grabbed my arm. For the first time, she asked for something without words. I can't, I said to the man. Silence shattered like ice. So now you're a protector of white women, he spat, or waiting for her to sell you for the bounty. I knew there was a price on my head, and now she carried it with me. I take care of her, I said simply. He raised his hand. Rifles were readied. Sarah cried silently. Last chance, Takoda. I looked at the sky, asked the spirits for forgiveness. I don't let go of what I already carry. The first shot didn't come. What came was doubt. He hesitated, and for a second, just a second, I saw in his eyes the same fear I carried. Lower your weapons, he said, his voice almost gone. His men obeyed, reluctantly. He walked toward me slowly. If you've lost your way, Apache, he said, standing close, staring at me, I won't be the one to drag you back. But that woman, she's not yours, and she never will be. Sarah hid behind me, but he had already turned away. Move out, he ordered, and they rode off. The sound of hooves faded, but the weight of his words remained. Sarah looked at me, confused. Why, didn't he kill us? Because fear is a weapon, and today it was in my hands. And now, I looked at the horizon. Now, we keep going. She hesitated. To where? To a place where no one needs to ask who we are. Does a place like that exist? I answered without emotion. No. But even so, we walked. The desert heat started punishing us before noon. Sweat ran down Sarah's face, mixing with the dust. She didn't cry anymore. Pain dries out tears. But her body was failing, stumbling with every step. I slowed down without saying a word. I knew she couldn't last much longer. And still, I didn't ask her to stop. I couldn't. Stopping meant being found. Takoda, she whispered, breathless. I can't. I stopped, looked back. Her face was pale, her lips cracked. Sit down, I ordered. She obeyed without hesitation, fell almost like a stone. I knelt in front of her. Her face was dirty, her veil torn, but it was more than appearance, it was the exhaustion of the soul. Drink, I said, offering my canteen. She drank like it was liquid gold. Her breathing slowly steadied. We stayed in silence. You should leave me, Takoda, she said, staring at the ground. Why? Because I'm just slowing you down, I know it. You don't know that, I answered, not harshly. She looked up at me. I'm a white woman. And you've lost everything because of me. I never had anything to lose. Sarah bit her lip. Her eyes filled again, but this time she held back the tears. Then why do you still protect me? I don't know. She said nothing, but it was a lie. I knew, and so did she. A distant sound broke the silence. Drums again? No, something different. I looked to the horizon. Takoda? She asked, uneasy. Riders, she flinched. The same ones as before? No, these are worse. And she turned white as salt. I stood up, pointed to a crack in the rocks to the left. Run, and don't look back. But now, she obeyed. The riders appeared soon after. Wide hats, eyes hidden, weapons in plain sight. Men with no flag, hunters, mercenaries. The one leading them had a scar cutting across his face. I knew the type. "Well, well," he said, smiling when he saw me. "An Apache out of his den. And alone." "I'm where I chose to be," I replied. "Looks pretty alone to me." "Maybe." He dismounted. The others stayed still, waiting for his signal. "I saw you yesterday walking with a woman, torn dress, big eyes, pretty." My silence was the answer. He smiled, taking his time. "Where is she?" "She's not here." I thought Apache didn't lie. "Only when we have to." He laughed, sharp and slow. "So tell me, warrior, do you plan to sell her first or kill her after?" My fist clenched on its own. I took a deep breath. "Don't touch her." The laughter stopped. His voice turned cold. "Don't give us orders." He raised his hand, rifles lifted. I knew there would be no talking, so I did what I'd never done before. I attacked first. I charged at them. Gunshots exploded. I felt the air tear past my face. I rolled on the ground, threw my knife at the first man I saw. A scream, blood. I heard Sarah scream my name from somewhere far off. I stood. Punches, shots, dust. A rifle grazed my shoulder. Hot pain. But I kept going. The knife returned to my hand. I struck again. Bodies fell, but the leader, he was still smiling. "You're fighting for her, for a white woman?" I didn't answer. I leapt at him. Our fight was brutal. Stones, elbows, dust in the eyes. But I fought like a man with nothing left to lose, and I won. When he fell, bleeding and gasping, he looked at me one last time. "She'll kill you, Apache, sooner or later. It's fate." I silenced him. Silence returned. The others fled. Sarah came out from the rocks, running, crying. "Takoda!" I fell to my knees. Hot blood was running down my arm. She held me, desperate. "Don't die, don't die." I looked at her. "Not now." I blacked out. Pain was the first sound I heard when I woke. A pain throbbing in my arm, spreading heat and weakness through my body. But her voice cut through the fog. "Takoda, please, stay with me." I opened my eyes slowly. The sky spun above me. Her face appeared, dirty but wet with tears. Her small hands trembled as they touched my face. "Am I alive?" I whispered. She cried at the sound of my voice. "For now." I tried to sit up, but my body wouldn't listen. "I was hit. Yes, in your shoulder, but I stopped the bleeding, I think." I looked at her in disbelief. "How?" "I stitched you up," she said, almost laughing nervously. "I remembered what my grandmother did with fabrics. I just improvised." I tried to laugh, but the pain stopped me. "You stitched me up?" "Yeah, and if you die, it's not my fault." Her voice cracked. "I swear I tried." We stayed silent. The cold wind blew. The smell of blood and smoke still clung to the air. How many days did I sleep? 2. 2 days. A warrior doesn't sleep while the enemy breathes. I had failed. "You should have left," I murmured. She brushed the hair from her forehead, offended. "And leave you here, alone, to die like a dog among the rocks?" That would have been easier. Maybe. But I don't even know what easy means anymore. She fell silent. But her silence was heavier now than before. "Sarah," she looked at me without looking away. "Why did you stay?" She took her time, but then she answered, "Because you looked at me like no man ever did." "How?" "Like I was someone." Those words broke something inside me. "I never asked to feel this," she went on, her voice cracking. "I wanted to leave. I swear I did. But when you fell, I knew." "Knew what?" "That I didn't want to run anymore." I took her hand, with what little strength I had left. "Then stay," I said. "I'll stay." She rested her forehead against mine, eyes closed. The silence between us was different now. Later, when I managed to sit up, she helped me drink. "The men, they're gone?" I asked. "Yes, but they could come back." They always come back. What will we do? I looked at her. We'll head south. Why? Because no one's waiting for us there. Sarah smiled for the first time. Takoda, she said, holding my hand, if you want, I can follow you. Not out of fear, but by choice. My throat closed. I was a warrior, an Apache, born for the shadows. But there, in the middle of nowhere, I realized, for the first time, I didn't want to be alone. Then come, I said. And she did. We kept walking together, carrying more than our bodies. We carried the impossible, hope. The following days were all silence and dust. We crossed dry valleys, broken mountains and shallow rivers where only the moon seemed alive. Sarah walked beside me without complaint. Every step she took was a promise. She wouldn't leave me anymore. But I knew. Promises are fragile in the desert. One afternoon, when the sun burned like hot iron, we found something we didn't expect. Footprints. Many. We're not alone anymore, I murmured, kneeling on the ground. Sarah watched in silence, holding her breath. Who are they? A caravan. But small. Families, women, children, they're running. Running from what? From men like the ones who hunted me. She squeezed my hand. What are we going to do? I looked at the trail. Follow, but from a distance, until we know if they're what they seem. She nodded. She trusted me. More than I trusted myself. We moved quietly, days and nights. The trail led south, just as I'd planned. But something told me destiny was changing. One night we saw the caravan camped. Small fires, quiet voices, children sleeping under torn blankets. Sarah was moved at the sight. They're like me, she whispered. Lost. No, I corrected. They still have each other. She understood. Then suddenly, I heard it. Horses. Many. The horde came from the east, mercenaries like the others. But these were worse. I saw it in their spears, in their chains. They're here to capture, not kill, I murmured. What do we do? I hesitated. We help. Takoda, there are too many. I know. She held my face in her hands. If you go, you won't come back. Maybe. Silence. Then she said what I never thought I'd hear. I'm going with you. No, I won't leave you. Not anymore. I tried to refuse, but her eyes didn't allow it. Then, stay behind me. If I fall, you won't. But if I fall, I insisted, run, and don't look back. She nodded, but I knew it was a lie. That night we attacked. 2 shadows against a horde. I used everything I knew, silence, speed, fear. Sarah used something I'd never known, illogical courage. We fought between fire and dust, screams, blades, she with a stolen knife, I with my last strength. When the enemy retreated, half dead, half running, I fell to my knees, and for the first time, I cried. Sarah held me. It's over, she whispered. No, I said, still sobbing, it's just beginning. The next morning, the caravan called me brother. They called Sarah sister. And there, under the desert sun, for the first time, I wasn't just a shadow. I was Takoda. And she was my light. The sunrise brought something I never expected. Voices of hope. The caravan's children ran around the fires, their shy laughter breaking the desert silence. Sarah watched them, sitting on a torn blanket, her face dirty, but her eyes alive. She approached me slowly, like someone afraid to interrupt a ritual. They're calling us family, Takoda, she said, almost unable to believe it. They're grateful. That's all, I replied, looking away. She didn't accept my escape. No, they see you as a leader. I'm a warrior, not a father. But you protected them, like no one else would. I said nothing. I didn't know how to answer. My people had been destroyed by the same kindness I now offered. But Sarah pressed on. You need to accept it. They trust you. They'll die if they trust me. No, Takoda, not anymore. Her words broke me and rebuilt me like the sun over stone. That night, the oldest man in the caravan approached. His name was Josiah, a man with a white beard and tired eyes. He handed me a simple necklace made of bone and stone. "For you, Apache," he said, "a leader needs to be recognized." I refused. "I'm not a leader." "Then learn to be, before everyone dies without someone to follow." I took the necklace, but it was Sarah who placed it around my neck in silence. Days passed. We taught the children how to hunt, the women how to defend themselves. I built stone barricades and made sure every man in the caravan learned to wield a makeshift spear. Sarah became their voice and soul. She cared for the sick, comforted the little ones. She was no longer a woman abandoned. She was the mother of a people that weren't hers. And I was the warrior who had sworn never to fight again. But I fought. For them. For her. One afternoon, Sarah called me. "Takoda, I need to show you something." I followed her to the dry riverbank. She knelt down. With a stick, she drew circles in the sand. "It's a road," she explained. "If we keep going south, we'll reach the railway." "And what's there?" "A town, small, but safe. We could start a life." I looked at her improvised map. "Nothing is safe for us. But it's a path, better than dying out here." I touched her face. "Is that what you want?" "I want a home," she answered, honest. "With you." I had no words. For a moment, I believed it was possible. Then we heard the sound. It wasn't horses, it wasn't drums. It was bells, many. I looked at Sarah. "They're coming." "Who?" "Railway men, guards, patrols, maybe worse." She turned pale. "But why?" "They want the land, or they want blood, maybe both." The dream died there, drawn in the sand. But Sarah took my hand. "It doesn't matter. We go to the end. Even if the end kills us, even then." And there in the dust and the fear, I knew. My fight wasn't for honor anymore. It was for love. Night fell like a heavy cloak. No one in the caravan slept. Children clung to their mothers. The men sharpened short spears, knowing they were useless against bullets. Sarah paced back and forth, her eyes restless. I watched everything from a distance. Sitting on a stone, feeling the cold wind cut my skin. She came to me. "Takoda, you need to say something to them." "What?" I asked, too tired. "The truth, that we're going to die." Sarah stayed silent. "That we have a chance," she corrected. I stood slowly. My shoulder throbbed, but I ignored it. I walked to the center of the camp. They all stared at me. Frightened eyes, hopeful eyes. They trusted me. Why? I took a deep breath. "You know this land. You know it belongs to no one. But now, men of iron and gunpowder come to take it. You can run, or you can fight." "And die?" one of them shouted. I looked without blinking. "Yes, maybe. But running kills you too, just takes longer." Silence. "I am Takoda, an Apache without a tribe, a man without a home. But I fought for you, and I'll fight again, not because I'm strong, but because I'm not afraid anymore." Sarah wept silently behind me. "If you want to run, go now. I won't blame you, but whoever stays, lift your head and die like a man, or live like a warrior." One by one, they raised their makeshift spears. They chose to stay. That night, I built defenses. Sarah stitched cloth onto metal rods, creating white flags with red crosses. A sign of peace. I knew it wouldn't work. In the morning they came, railwaymen, black coats, low hats, long rifles, riders with eyes cold as stone. Their leader was a thin man, elegant, the kind who kills with a smile. He stopped in front of the stone barricade. "Who leads this group?" he shouted. I stepped into the line of fire. "I do," he smiled. "An Apache." "Yes." "Want to negotiate?" "No." "Then you want to die?" Here's a fluent, clear translation for a native English reader, keeping the emotional and narrative tone. "No." He waited. "I want to live." And how do you think you'll manage that? I looked back, where Sarah watched me. Then I faced the leader. By fighting. He laughed. His men laughed with him. You're going to lose, Apache. You're going to lose everything. Maybe. But you'll remember me. Why? Because no one fights like a man who's already lost everything. His smile disappeared, and the first shot rang out. The battle began. A rain of bullets, dust, screams. I saw men fall. I saw children run. But I also saw something I never thought I'd see. Courage. Courage in the women throwing stones. Courage in the old men swinging sticks. And I saw Sarah fighting, defending. In the middle of the battle, I was hit again. I fell, but I stood back up. The railway leader came for me himself, a short knife, cold eyes. This is the end, Apache, he said. No, I answered, bloodied. This is the beginning. And I fought until the knife fell, until his blood mixed with mine. When the dust settled, we had won, or at least, we had survived. Sarah found me sitting there, covered in blood and dust. Takoda, are you alive? She knelt in front of me. And now? I looked at the horizon. Now, we build, she cried, but with joy. A Takoda, warrior of shadows, was finally free. And for the first time, I wanted to be more than a warrior. I wanted to be home. The following days brought no more gunshots, no more riders, no more threats from the horizon. The silence, strange and heavy, became the new enemy. Every morning I walked among the ruins of the barricade. Sarah watched from a distance, her eyes marked by waiting. The caravan rebuilt itself, but no one knew how to rebuild themselves. One afternoon, while I gathered broken wood, I heard light footsteps behind me. Takoda, you still haven't come back, Sarah said softly. I've never come back from anywhere, I answered without turning. She touched my shoulder. You don't have to fight anymore. I always have. But now, you have a choice. I said nothing. Choose to live, she pleaded. Live. That's what she wanted from me, something I didn't know how to do. What if I don't know how? I'll teach you, she said. Let me teach you. I looked at her, tired, but I didn't say no. That night I sat by the fire. The children came, sat close. Josiah played an old bone flute. The women sang softly. Sarah rested her head on my shoulder. No one asked for permission. And without noticing, I accepted. They trust you, she whispered. Why? Because you saved them. What if I fail again? Then we fail together. I closed my eyes. Sarah, the white woman with green eyes, was teaching me how to be human. At sunrise, she brought me something in her hands. It's for you, she said, shy. It was a simple bracelet made of leather and stone beads. I can't accept it. You can, and you will. I fastened the bracelet around my wrist, where scars left no space for memories. What does it mean? I asked. That you belong to someone, she answered. To you. To us, she corrected. I hugged her, right there. Not as a warrior, but as Takoda. Just Takoda. Days later, Josiah gathered the caravan. It's time to decide, he said. Do we keep wandering or do we put down roots? Sarah looked at me. I knew what she wanted, what they all wanted, but it was up to me to say it. We stay, I said at last. This is our home now. The children cheered. The women smiled. Even the tired old men raised their hands. And there, in that dry and cruel piece of desert, a new people were born. A people without a name, but with a soul. That night, Sarah and I looked at the stars together. Are you still afraid? She asked. Yes, I answered. Of what? Of losing this. She held my hand. Then fight. But this time, fight to live. I smiled. For the first time, I, Takoda, warrior of shadows, finally understood. I no longer fought against men. I fought against the emptiness inside me, and in that battle I won. Time passed without me noticing. That dry piece of land where once there had only been stones and fear was now something more. Small houses of clay, fires lit every night, voices blending in the air. The caravan had stopped, but the people had begun. And I began with them. Sarah was by my side every day. She taught the children to write in the sand. She stitched new cloth. She planted, even when the earth said no. And every night before sleep, she looked at the stars as if searching for answers. "Takoda," she said one night, sitting by the fire. "Do you think we're safe now?" I thought before answering. "We'll never be." She didn't look sad. She simply accepted it. "But at least we're together." "Yes," I agreed, "together." She laid her head on my shoulder, and there she stayed, listening to my heartbeat. Days later, Josiah came to me. "The railway town," he said. "It's 3 days from here. And we need to know if they'll tolerate us or destroy us." I understood. He was right. We couldn't live like ghosts. Sarah begged me not to go. "I'm afraid I won't see you come back." "I'm afraid too," I admitted. But it had to be done. The next morning, I left. I carried only what I needed. And my fear. The railway town was worse than I imagined. Armed men on every corner, eyes that weighed heavy. But I walked with my head held high. In the central hall, I asked to speak to the lawman. "Apache?" he asked, suspicious. "Yes." "Why aren't you dead?" "Because death got tired of chasing me." He laughed, but without humor. "What do you want here?" "Peace." "We don't sell that." "Neither do I." I told the truth. I spoke of my people, of the children, of the land we just wanted to farm. He stayed silent, thinking. Finally, he said, "I promise nothing. But if you stay far enough away, maybe they'll let you live." "Maybe? That's the best someone like you can hope for." I accepted, and I returned. Sarah was waiting. She ran when she saw me, held me without shame. "Did they accept us?" she asked. "For now," she smiled. "Then we have a future?" "We have a maybe," she cried. But this time, it was with joy. Months later, when the first corn sprouted from the earth, she held my hand as we stood before the field. "See," she said, "the land said yes." I looked at the field, and for the first time, I felt like I owned something. I owned a home. Sarah kissed the scar on my shoulder. "Thank you for fighting." "I fought because you taught me." I, Takoda, the Apache warrior, was no longer a shadow. I had become a root. I am Takoda. And now I can say I am a whole man. For years I believed I was born to live in the shadows, that my destiny was war, running, pain. But I learned the hard way that a warrior can also be a builder, that there's no shame in loving, nor weakness in trusting. Sarah taught me that. With her green eyes, her fragile hands, and a heart bigger than any desert, she saved me when I believed there was nothing in me left worth saving. Today, the children run between the fields. The wind carries the smell of wet earth, and every night under the stars, I tell stories to people who call me their leader, but who, in truth, led me here. If this story reached you, it's because the fight was worth it. And remember, sometimes the greatest courage isn't in killing or winning battles. It's in staying, it's in building, it's in loving. Thank you for listening to my story. Now tell me, what was your hardest battle? And if you can, share this story so that more warriors wherever they are will know they're not fighting alone.